Have you ever observed different people doing the same Qigong practice? It could just be two people, or it could be a whole group of people, and you're able to observe them all doing this practice, and they're all doing the same movements. Now, some of those people, they might be doing the movements correctly, and they might look quite good doing them. But then as you observe one or several of the others doing those same movements, there's something extra in the way they're doing those movements. And it might be hard to put your finger on exactly what that is. It might be hard to define, but there's a sense of grace, of flow, maybe even power or energy within the way they're doing the practice. How could we sum up the difference between these different people and what they're doing in their practice? That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. All right, so if you've watched a lot of people doing Qigong, this is probably something you've noticed. It's something certainly someone with a skilled, experienced eye will notice, but it's also something that I think, whether we're aware of it or not to begin with, we all have some unconscious awareness of some of these subtle factors that relate to our energy. And we are able to observe them. So even people quite new to Qigong practice, and they might not be able to say, okay, what exactly is the difference here? But they'll be like, ooh, wow, there's something more going on there than there is over there, right? So hopefully that's something that you've all observed. And I was thinking about this the other day because there's quite a few different things that can go into that different state, that different quality, that flow, that grace, that power, that energy within a practice. There's many different things that come together for that. And I was thinking, like, how could you sum that up? And I thought, you know what? The word presence in many ways puts all of those together. The person who has that power, that grace, is fully present within the practice, whereas the other person maybe isn't quite. Now, that word presence has become, in a way, a little bit of a buzzword recently. I'm not sure quite how to describe the community who uses it as a buzzword. Maybe New Age isn't quite the right term. Maybe the mindfulness community, I don't know how to describe it, but it's become something that people have put a lot of focus on in recent, say even beyond years, recent decades, and started to really recognize the value of this concept of presence and having a state of presence. And as part of this, they've developed different methods for being more present. And all of these different methods and tools that have been developed have their place, have value to them. One of the things I've noted with this, the sort of the mindfulness community or the meditation community, or whichever group it is that a lot of the tools that they've developed are often very mind-focused. Again, it's there in the word, mindfulness. They very mind-focused. So even when they're using things like using the body as a tool to be present, it's very much about the mind and the interaction with the body. It's very, head-directed. And again, there is value in that, but it can also be a little bit limiting. It's not using the full possible suite of tools that we could use for developing this state. And that is where I think Qigong has some real value to offer everyone. We're often within Qigong not talking about presence as a state we're aiming for. We might be describing it in a different way. And so often we enter into this state of presence naturally from using the different tools without even realizing it was a goal. And we're, oh, look, we're there. And it's one of those things that often in the modern reimagination or reinvention of things, or rediscovery maybe of the value of things, people do come up with valuable things, but they often find themselves looking at just part of the picture, because that's where our focus is, not realizing that there's so much more to contribute to the same field within existing practices of a more ancient origin. Now, hopefully, over time, these pieces get linked up and people, oh, actually, we can expand, and realize this. So, in this vlog, I'm going to talk about some of the specific ways that Qigong develops presence, and that presence is a really valuable thing within our practice. It gives us that grace, that flow, that power, that energy, and also flowing out into our life. In many ways, it does sum up a lot of what we might be seeking within our Qigong practice. So, the main tools that Qigong uses within its practice are very valuable in contributing to this, and so I'm going to talk about each of those, and I'm going to add a fourth aspect of Qigong that I think is really valuable for getting more easily, more deeply into this state of presence. So those main things that we use within Qigong that are helpful for developing presence are the mind, the body, the breath, and the fourth one is that specific focus on energy. I think that plays a very valuable role as well. So firstly, the use of the mind. In many ways, this might not be too different from what you find in other sort of mindful or presence-based practices, where we do specifically use the mind to develop awareness, to really notice the subtle details of what is going on within us. And then we often take that further to use the mind not just as a tool of awareness, but to direct things within us. And there are many different aspects of Qigong practice that use this. Within any practice, it'll be there to some degree. So within moving practices and things, it's there just in awareness and what we focus on within the practices. And, focusing on those details little by little makes us more aware and more present. Within Qigong practice, there are also specific meditations where it's not about movement and things like that. It's more just about directing the mind, and as part of that, developing a connection between the mind and the body, and the mind and our present state with the world around us. The next tool, the body. So again, yes, there's the awareness of the body, but within Qigong practice, we also use the body quite specifically to align the body in certain ways, to move the body and notice what happens with the movement. And this makes us much, much more aware of what's going on within our body. It also does basic things like, by aligning the body, allow our body to be more comfortable. And that then it becomes more easy nicer, I guess you could say, to make the connection between our mind and body. And also because of the specific aspects of how we use our body, and we know what we're looking for within our body as we're doing these different practices, it really strengthens the connection between the mind and the body. We notice a lot more detail, and so this then becomes a powerful tool for becoming more aware and more present. And again, we then take that further and use that in useful ways to create changes within our body. The third tool, the breath. So this one is really, really powerful. In many ways, it connects mind and body. Now again, other types of presence or mindfulness practices will sometimes use the breath, but again, primarily in a very head-oriented way, observing the breath and noticing things with the breath. And again, there's value in that. There's a lot of value in that. Qigong goes further in using it as an active tool. And so, yes, observing the breath, but going further and using the breath in specific ways to induce certain states between the mind and the body, some of which then make it much easier to make that connection between consciousness and unconsciousness. And then also using the breath to have specific effects inside the body, effects on organs, effects on our muscles, effect on our blood chemistry. So, generating more heat, more coolness, all of these sorts of things, generating more tension, less tension, more relaxation in the body. And we get this much clearer, stronger connection awareness of what's going on with our body when we use the breath and the mind and body all together. So the nature of these tools gives us really practical, specific ways to develop that awareness and develop that presence. So we're not just shooting, our target is not just presence. How do we become present? It's like, let's develop a specific skill. Let's develop another specific skill. Let's develop another specific skill. And as we develop those skills little by little, we're then in a better position to become truly present, truly aware. And so it accumulates little by little. And it's a little bit like, say you're wanting to get to the top of a mountain, from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain, and all there is like steep rock faces to get up there. It's like, that is going to be really hard to scrabble your way up, and you're going to try and fall down and try and fall down, try and fall down, By having these different tools and these different specific skills that we develop, it's like someone has gone and cut steps into this mountainside, and now you can go up step by step by step by step by step, walk your way up, and it's still going to be work, it's still going to take time and practice, but much more reliable and often faster way to reach that end point. Okay, so those are the 3 tools. Then the 4th one, the specific focus on energy. I think this is the really valuable thing as well, because to be truly aware, to be truly present, there is so much going on within our body at any one time, thousands and thousands of different functions. There's no way that we can be consciously aware of them all at the same time, individually. And therefore, if we're not aware of some of them, are we truly present? There's something going on, we're not aware of it. Like, are we really present? Maybe not. Similar even in terms of the things going on around us. There's so many little subtle things going on. We cannot be consciously aware of all of these individually at the same time. Having a focus on energy solves that to some degree for us, because the energy that we experience comes from the collective effect of all of these different things. So those thousands and thousands of different things going on in your body together create a certain quality of energy and certain patterns of energy flow. And we can tune into that. That gives us one thing to focus on rather than thousands of things to focus on. Now, that one thing might have different aspects to it. It might have, different qualities and shape and direction, but it's still just one thing. We can bring our awareness to that, and in doing so, we're becoming aware of the whole. Again, similar to what's going on around us, rather than having to identify every single individual thing, we become aware of the energy, and in that way, we're aware of the whole. So, that specific thing, the fact that Qigong is focusing on energy in a very practical way, I think helps us to enter this state of presence and awareness more fully. And so, I thought that was, anyway, I was just thinking about it in terms of summing it all up. Presence is a big part of that difference in quality we see, and that different level of achievement or skill. That's a way to sum up what's going on. Someone's present. And another way we could say that is they're aware of their energy. They're connected to their energy. They're truly directing their energy. There's a lot of similarity between the two concepts that you can use them sort of in parallel with each other. Someone who is really effective with their energy is more present to allow them to do that, or that is a reflection of their state of presence. Anyway, hopefully that's been interesting. Maybe it's been interesting to you, maybe as a Qigong practitioner, to understand how some of these things come together and the different qualities you observe. Maybe something else interesting to talk about. Back to those different people. So some might be doing the movements, they look pretty good, but they're missing this extra quality. Why? Why does someone have this quality when someone else may not? Hopefully from what I've talked about, it's pretty obvious at this point. It may be that within their practice, within their study, they have focused predominantly on one or maybe a couple of those tools and not really gone fully into working with the others of those tools fully. And so because of that, they've developed some aspects of their practice that they are probably getting a lot of benefit from. Even if all they're doing is doing the movements well, there's a lot of physical benefit that they'll get, and that will have a flow on. And so nothing wrong per se in doing that. But to make their practice really powerful, they really need to bring the other parts in as well. They really need to have the mind, the body, the breath working together, and then from that, take that next step to bring that into an awareness and connection to their energy. And so again, this isn't a criticism of people who are practicing one way or another, but just a commentary on why they might be at different points in their practice, and possibly ways, if they want to go from being the person just doing the movements to the person who has that extra power, that grace, that flow, that energy within their movement, how they could do that. It might be that they can then recognize that, hey, I've been focusing a lot on the movements, that's great, but I haven't been really using my breath much in my practice. Maybe I want to explore using my breath more. Or it might be, yeah, I'm using my movements and my breath, and that's taking me a certain distance. Maybe I need to bring my mind and my awareness in here more. And that could be just within the specific practice that they're doing, or it could be using some meditative practices to develop that mind-body connection and use that more powerfully. Or it could be, actually, I feel like I'm using my mind, my body, my breath, all pretty well together. What else do I need to do? It's likely that they're probably going to start doing this naturally, but if they haven't already, to see if they can start to bring their awareness more to their energy in the way that connects everything together. So they're then actually not even looking at mind, body, and breath separately so much anymore. They're starting to go, everything is just about the energy. All right, if this has made you curious about either starting some Qigong practice or getting further into your Qigong practice, or just exploring further how these different tools come together, we do have some great resources from Long White Cloud Qigong that can help you with that. Probably the number one I'd say you should probably start with, that would be really helpful for you, is we have a free course called Introduction to Qigong Theory and Practice, and it goes through a whole lot of principles, and part of that talks a lot more about the use of mind, body, breath, and energy awareness within our Qigong practice, and gives you practical exercises that you can do to gain your own experience with them. That will then inform the other practices that you do. It will start to help you to put them all together. And from there, you could go on to explore, well, whatever practice you like. It could be some other Long White Cloud Qigong ones, or other practices. You'll be in a position to understand and get more out of them. So we'll put a link to that below. And I hope you've enjoyed the vlog. I look forward to seeing you on another one soon.